Okay, let's make a comb joint. What you will need is one sharp pencil, a steel rule, a tri-square, a coping saw, and a tenon saw, and of course some wood. Now what I've got here is some pine, which is a soft wood, okay, and you can see that by the thickness of the grain. Okay, if it was a hardwood, the grain would be a lot more close together. You can also see in some softwoods we've got things like this, which is a knot, which is where the branches once grew. Okay, so what we want to try and do is avoid cutting anywhere near that, because what you'll find is it will pop out. So our ends which we're cutting our comb joint on are nice and clear. So what we need to do first is mark out the combs. Okay, now the idea of a comb or a finger joint is that it interlocks, and obviously we have an odd number of fingers and thumbs, so we're going to do it a similar way. Then comb joints are commonly done in 1s, 3s and 5s, normally no more than that. Okay, so what we need to do is measure using our steel rule how long a piece of wood is, and I can see that that's about 70 millimetres, so I then need to divide that by 5, so that's about 14. So I'm sure one of you maths whizzes is going to correct me at some point, but I'll give it a go. So what you can see is that I'm just marking really small lines, really small marks where I want my combs to be. Then what I need to do is I need to work out the thickness. Now I could measure it and then draw it and whatever else, or I could just use the piece of wood that I'm joining it to, okay, and fit that flush to the edge and draw a line straight down. And I can do that again on this side too. That just means it's a bit of a cheat, but it's a bit more accurate as well. Okay, so that's done. So what I need to use now is my tri-square, and what I can do is I can firm up those lines that I've drawn already so they look a bit more precise. And I then need to mark out my combs. Now I'm using a tri-square rather than a ruler, because if I use a ruler, what's controlling it from wobbling it around? So with my tri-square I can just put that flush against the edge, like so. Now again, I could do the same process on this piece of wood that I'm joining it to, but I'm not going to, because that will take me a long time. Again, another cheeky tip, because I want it to fit flush, I can just mark it from the one that I've already drawn out, and then use my tri-square to fill that in. Like so. I'm nearly ready to cut. So what I need to do now is work out where I'm cutting, because this can often cause the confusion and a lot of waste of wood. So what I need to do is I need to scribble out, like a bit of a checkerboard, every other square. Like so. And I know that these ones that I've coloured in are the ones that I need to cut out. So it's time to put the pencil away and the wood in the vise. Now I don't want to have it really high up in the vise, I want to have it further down so it's not going to wobble and I'm not at risk of my wood snapping. Then what I need to do, so I don't get confused and I'm not having to stand like this, I can just mark along here again where I need to cut. I can do that freehand because I trust myself to be accurate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my straight lines down first, and I'm going to use my tenon saw for that. Now you might find it at the start a little bit difficult and it will wobble around, so what you need to do is do a few drags, dragging the saw backwards like so, to create a bit of a groove, and that will guide you. You'll find, I'm going to put my hand underneath it, you'll find cutting in this direction down the line that I've drawn quite easy because you're cutting with the grain, okay? So you're cutting down with the grain. When it comes to cutting our lines the other way, you'll find that a bit more tough. So it's up to you which way round you do that, but I prefer to do the easy bit first. So again, it doesn't matter how small you look when you're using these saws, okay? You're expected to make a human set. Doesn't have to be the most precise thing in the world at this point. Last one. No giggling at this point, please. Okay, so there's my lines there cut already. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these end points off here. So I can still use my vise, and again I can make sure that I've got all my lines marked out and ready on one side. You'll find this a little bit more difficult because we're going across the grain now. This one. Some more. Oh, that happens. Done. Okay, so you can see I've got the two parts of my comb joint ready cut out. Now is the slightly more trickier bit. Now I've already cut down, but I need to take away that whole area. So I'm going to stop using the tenon saw because it's a thick blade, okay, and it goes down straight, which is good for what we've used it for so far, but it's not very good at cutting corners. So I'm now going to use my coping saw. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut an X. And then again on this side here. So you can see I've got a lot more flexibility, it's a lot more lightweight. The blade is thinner, so I can move it around as much as I like and get it into a few tight corners to really neaten it up. Okay, so that's half of my comb joint. What I'll then go on to do is do the process that I did for this part here, again there, and hopefully it'll fit together. The end.